There we are. On Twitch and YouTube. Okay, let's get going. All right. What I want to do today is go through and do a deep dive on GameMode and the GameState. Those two work together pretty well. So what I have done so far is I just set up a simple, it's a third-person template, just as you normally would in Unreal Engine, and yeah, just switch here. Okay, so I just set up a normal template in UE5 for the third person, and I've called it Tori for tutorial. What we are wanting to look at first off is the game mode. The game mode that it comes with. So first thing that game modes are very helpful for is that you can, let's go over the game mode here. Set the default classes that you want to be spawning when things spawn in. So, for example, here there is the player pawn class, and we can set that default pawn class to this blueprint here, and we can find this in the actual content over here. So let's see, be able to find it under let's see, third person blueprints, third person. That's where that is pointing to currently. That should be great. So that is the first thing that game modes are used for. It is where you can set that default information. Let's check out what other default information there is. Oh, I'm gonna override my settings real quick. Let's see what is. Okay, let's do that real quick. I want to edit my plugin for find. Make that Alt F3. That way I'm not conflicting with them. Okay. Okay, find default. Default game mode. We can see here that the game mode that comes built in is just inherited from a game mode base. So it's just a very simple game mode. Let's see. Not too sure how to format this. Okay. First things about anything. I just started learning Unreal Engine like 5 months ago, like beginning of this year. So don't take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I don't actually know all that depth, but I've been learning step by step, and so I'm just going to go through what I've learned. I feel like from what I've seen, what I did with one of my projects is that I inherited from, well, another thing I should say is if you are completely new to C++, this is going to be a mainly C++ or UE++ coding. I'm not going to deal much with the blueprints, and we're just going to look at the code of things so you can understand things at that base level. And most of this stuff can be extruded to be used in blueprints. I mean, they all use the same scripts in the end, so you should be able to figure that out. But I'm not going to be actually showing how to use these things in blueprints, just C++ for the time being. So first, the game mode that comes built into when you start up a project, at least using a third-person template, It literally just inherits from a game mode base here, and then that is all it does. And it just has a constructor here, and in that constructor we set some default, oh, that's the character. In the constructor over here, we just set the default pawn class that we want to start. So this will set which pawn class, and in this case the pawn class is in the third person folder. It's blueprints, and it's the third person character, so that is going to be inherited from this here, so this Tori character. So it's going to find that in the content over here, and that is located right here. And if you wanted to get that reference, you can right click and copy reference, and then you could even just paste that in here. That's exactly what's being used, except I'm in Vim. There we are. And that should do the same thing. It should pull that from you. Okay, next thing. That is what game modes are very helpful for, is just setting default pawn class. Next thing is let's actually create our own game mode real quick, so we can find another way of setting things up and kind of what they're used for. So why don't we just delete this completely? Actually, no, I can build off this. So we got game mode here. So game modes and game states are very different. Let me create a game state real quick. My preferred way of, well, let's create it in engine. So I'm going to create my own content folder, my content. And what I like to do is I like to favorite it until you can like migrate all the starter content and all the stuff you want from the template into my own content. I like to just have my own folder just to put my stuff until I can reorganize and migrate it all into one unified file structure. Let's see here. We can favorite this folder if that'll work. Where is it? Add to favorites, and you can also edit the color of it, so I can quickly identify. I usually set my content to be blue. So my content, let's create C++ class. So that's something I like to do. And another thing we can do here is I like to create, instead of putting all the because eventually you'll have so many scripts and everything, I like to create a folder in this area to put my stuff in. Problem with that is that you can't actually create folders, at least as far as I'm aware. You can't create folders from the actual content browser here. What we have to do is close down the engine and do it externally. I do it through Writer here. So I'm going to add a directory, and I usually call this one framework. This is like the base framework. This is where I'll put the game state, the game base, and that sort of stuff. Let me turn down music just a tad bit here. There we are. And let me know if anyone has any questions. So this is where I put the game base. The framework is where I put the game base, the game state, and that sort of stuff. I could even put the player controller here if it's not like super tied to the game character. This is where I put base stuff for the game. So let's create the framework folder, and then I am going to move the game mode into there. And this will break things because UE5 is currently referencing this game mode script, so you'll have to make sure to update that to have that game mode be used. And we can do that. So let's create, actually that's fine. And then we can rebuild it. Actually, I'm going to move the base. Actually, no, I'm not doing that. There we go. Okay. Let's build it. Oh, except we need to update the includes for this now. Let me let's go with, we have to go to framework for character. Actually, we have to go dot dot. There we go. This isn't being even used, is it? I don't think. Let's see. Build it. Let's see if it's unhappy now. Perfect. That built. And let's start up the engine here. My preferred way of setting up the Unreal projects is that I link the U project here. Let me get it pulled up. Projects, Unreal Engine. This is Tori. I like to link the U projects to Rider so I can just open them up in here. And then so when you're first starting a project, you can link Rider to it and everything. And then I just like to refresh Rider U project and then open Rider U project. And then you can close it down and then just do everything through the Rider. So that means I can start it, stop it, and then to open the game engine, I just open Rider, edit anything, build it from there, and then start it from Rider. And so what were we doing here? Let's see. Now we have this framework folder. Let's see. Framework, and we have our game mode base. Let's create a game state, and we'll also create this from base. Game state base. We're not going to use the one that come built in. If you want to use the game state inherit from Unreal Engine's game state, then you also have to make sure your game mode is inheriting from its game mode and not game mode base. Currently we're inheriting from game mode base, and later on I plan on making our own, just inheriting from game mode itself. So let's just create game state base, and let's create this C++, and we're going to call this Tori game state. Create class under the framework. Perfect. Should load up. I'm going to organize here. Whoopsie doopsie. All right. Then when you create from... Oh, looks like my Rider killed itself. Let's kill it here. I do notice that sometimes creating the scripts in Unreal Engine messes things up. Let's close exit out here. Open up Rider again. Where is Rider? Why isn't it loading up? Come on, son. There we go. Let's just open our Tori project. Hopefully it's going to be more happy. Looks like something broke when we created that file. So what would probably be best is to... Let's open it from the Epic Games launcher. And I'm just launching it from there. I might have to recreate that U project for Rider, like I was speaking about earlier. This is a perfect demonstration. So, when linking Rider, I prefer to have... So first you have to open it initially from the Epic Games launcher, and then I go into here and refresh Rider U project, and this just makes sure, and we have to do this to fix what's currently going on. And this might take a while, a little bit, hopefully won't. There we are. All right, and then under tools, we can go open Rider U project, and hopefully it's going to be less unhappy with us now. it is still very unhappy with us. Ah, it loaded. Okay. Perfection. So if you ever have an issue between your write or U project, you can just open it through the game launcher and refresh your U project. So now we have our game state here. And so game modes and game states are similar but different. First, networking wise, game mode. Let's open MS Paint actually. Let's open Paint. Okay, so when networking, we of course have the server. So this is the server, and then we have clients. And this is a little simplified, but game modes only live on the server. So this is where game mode will be. Game modes will only be under the server. And game states, those will just live under client. So clients will, I misspoke. Game states will live on all of them for regardless of whether they are game mode or server or client. So game states will be replicated there. And game states will also be here. That is interesting. I am not used to MS Paint. I've never used this. So that is one way that you have to consider when using game modes, is that you want to put the authoritative information in game mode so that clients can't cheat or get information they're not supposed to. So first, I think it would be good. I don't even care. Let's keep this open. It might be beneficial to look at how, let me think. I think it would be beneficial to see how I'm going to make this. Okay, that is a game mode base. And game state. Okay. I vote we look at how, not game mode, but let's see, a game mode. And let's go to where that is defined. Let's see, go D, GD. Okay. And then let's open the C++ file for this. Take it over here. Whoops. Okay. So I think there are two ways I've set game mode, and that is one, to just basically copy what's been already set up for you in game mode, and I think it'd be helpful to understand how that works. So in order to recreate the game mode, first let's go through it and understand what's going on. So first, privately, we have a match state. This match state is what match we are currently in. And it can be, match states can only be set from the game mode. And you might be thinking, why? Here, let's even open it up. Let's see here. Let's go to get a game state and open up its alternative. Okay. So why do we have a match state in the game mode when we already have a game state that will be used everywhere? I think primarily why Unreal Engine sets it up this way is because when networking, we don't want the clients to be able to set the game state or anything like that. So only on the server, which is where the game mode exists, is the match state set. So you can see here we have set match state, and if you look in the game state, there is a set match state in here. Let's even see how it is called. So set match state. If the match state is not equal to the new state, then it's not even going to attempt to do anything. And there's some logging here and some movie proxy logs. I have no idea what that is. But then it calls on match state set, which handles how things are always changing. But then you can see here we are getting the game state, and then we are calling set match state on it. Let's see. Perfect. And this updates the match state. And one thing when I was first looking at this, being confused about, is why is the match state an F name? The way Unreal Engine has set it up, it's not an enum. Enums can be kind of restrictive, I feel like. So they just created same sort of thing, but it's just an F name, where we have this name state match state. And up top over here, they defined what the F names for this match state is, so that there's just one place where it is set. And then we have them there. So when you're setting a match state, you would go, let's even see, set match state. No. Set match state entering map, which would set it to this F name entering map. And then let's keep looking through here. So we've on match state set, which is called when a state is changing. And this is its event for that, for the blueprints. And then we have the handling functions. There's a whole bunch of functions which just, when transitioning to a state, if it will call a handle function to use that. So this is handle match is waiting to start. There's a whole bunch. Let's see. Handle match has ended, handle match leaving map, and handle match aborted. And it does, each one of those does a different thing, and we can also override them. And in order to go ready to end match, this returns true if it is ready to end. So right now, that just returns false, and we would have to override this. And this is the same sort of thing. Ready to start match. There is a check here for delayed start in the game mode. There is a flag here for delayed start, and if it is true, then this will always return false. And there's an additional check to make sure the number of players and number of bots is more than 0. Then it returns true. And if we're not waiting to start, it's not even going to try anything. It's just going to return false. So that is how the flow goes. So initially, let's even see. Let's go to its init function. So let's see here. Match state is initially set here. So we're initially set to entering map, and game modes are created when a map is created. And so we're setting it that it can tick. And this tick group means it's going to tick before the physics runs. Which looks like that's just the default here. And the game state class is literally just a game state static class, which, something to note, again, I said this earlier, but when using not game state based but inheriting from game state, you have to use the game mode that UE also uses. You cannot mix a game state to a game state base. You have to use a game mode and a game state, or a game base and a game base, a state base, whatever the words are. And here are just some normal variables here that are getting set. Looks like there's a function here for get network number, which is just getting a low-level network number, and that's for ID stuff, I believe. And so init game, this is called when things are still being initialized, and it also once again sets the match state to be entering map. And so when this is set, just to reiterate, it'll eventually get to on match set, and then on entering map. Oh, actually there isn't one for entering map. Looks like they didn't need to do that. And if the game state class is null or it is not a game state, then game mode, it won't work. The game mode and game state have to be used together in this case. And here are just some delegates. These delegates, yeah, just normal delegates that can be bound to, and these are used all throughout. Restart game is something that can be overridden, but it sets the match to leaving map, and then server travels. So this sets the game to travel, and just restarts it. Looks like using this URL, which is quite nice actually. Then on post login, this does some complicated stuff where if a player, when a player is added, it adds them to a list of players that have entered, and if a player gets disconnected, whether like due to network error, it adds them to a list of inactive players, and if they reconnect, it then can reconnect them through this find inactive player. And I haven't looked through any of this. It's kind of complicated. At least there's a lot of code to it, and I haven't looked through all of it. And you can see here it's been found, and so we can reset information in here. And someday I'd like to go through this and implement it in myself in my own game mode. No, we do not. No. Okay. Override player state. I don't know what this is. Override player controllers player state with the values in old player state as part of an inactive player handling. Okay, so this is part of the inactive players flow. And server travel. And server travel looks like it's just a helper function for whether or not it can do it traveling. And post seamless travel. So when you're seamless traveling, instead of it completely breaking down the level and then just resetting into the new one, this preserves clients and makes it so that they won't leave and they can just travel along with you. What it does is there's a temporary level in between. So when you call seamless travel or server travel, which will eventually do seamless travel if it's enabled, it will take some scripts such as the player states and I believe the game mode and maybe the player controllers, and it will keep them loaded in, and it will load up a transition map. And then that transition map will then transition those into the new level so that you can preserve game states and all that stuff. And there are functions in game states on when doing a seamless travel, you can edit all of that and use what information you want to keep when seamless traveling. So this is basically what's happening here. We don't need to go into that. Is handling group play, don't want to work with that. Okay, so that is not actually as much as I was worried about. Let's see. I feel like there's some that I missed. There's the handle functions, but that is the gist of it. There's handling when the match has started, so I think it would be cool to be able to recreate the Unreal Engine's game state stuff. Well, actually, before we do that, we need to look at GameState and see how it handles everything. So with GameState, there's the get match state, which is a normal return. Actually, let's go first into its initializer. Let's go. over in here, go to the top. Okay, GameState. It looks like it's just sets the initial match state, which should match. It should always match the game modes, and the previous match state, which is also a thing it uses, is entering map. Looks like. Excuse me. Okay, and it looks like in GameState you can override received game mode class, and when that is called, it just double checks that the game mode class is actually one that is it can be used for and not a game mode base. And the default timer here, I actually don't know what this is used for. Let's see. Default timer. Okay. Let's see. Called periodically, overridden by subclasses. I'm not too sure why that is a thing. I'll have to take a look at that later and maybe put that in the video. Post initialized components. So let's just see when exactly is this called. In the GameState base, which this is inherited from, post initialized components. Begins a. So I believe this is when all the actors are initialized. This is when you can start actually using them and all that stuff. I believe that's what that is. So after everything is initialized, we get the world time manager and we set a timer using this. Get effective time dilation. I don't know what this is for. I'll have to come back and look at why this default timer is a thing. And then we have handle matches waiting start. So we have the handle match stuff again. And this is just match. So when in the game mode a game state, a match state is set, then it calls, let's see, set match state. Whoops. Zoom out here. Let's see, set match state. When set match state is called, it finds the game state and it sets the match state there as well. So that's how things actually are getting set to the set state. I don't believe set match state in the game state should ever be called, but it should just be called in the game mode. And again, that is to prevent clients from setting it, and it's just good. I believe it's a good thing to have a single place it is set and one that is set only on the server. That way, then it can, through the game state, it'll propagate through to all the clients, and we can go through how that's happening. So if the local role is the authority, and that means if the local role, if we are the server, basically, if this is the authoritative script, then our match state is going to update to this here, and then it's going to call on rep match state. Typically you don't call replicated functions like this. So what happens, what it means to be replicated, let's go to match state here. So you can see it is replicated using on rep match state. What that does is every time in the authoritative server, when match state is set, it will send out packets to all the clients, and it will update the match state for them, and it will also call this function. So if on the authority, and what this function does is it's going to call all the handle functions. It's also going to, after all those handlings have gone through, it will update the previous match state. Let's see. So if on the authority, it just calls this manually. Of course, normally on the authority, on rep will never get called. The onRep match state will call on the authority through here, and that will make it so on the authority itself, on the server, these handle match changes will be called as well. Let's see, and then the previous match gets set, and let's see, on elapsed time. Okay, so elapsed time since the match has started, I see. So when the match has started, and I'm gonna guess we can see handle match has started here, it will notify match started. I wonder if we have, let's see, notify match started, Alt F. I thought I would be seeing that elapsed time would be used. Any noodles, we can see we have these functions here that can be overridden for when the match has ended and when leaving the map. And has match started is just asking if the match has started or not, and that is looking at the game state. And then handle begin play is match in progress. Is just a helper function on whether or not it's in progress. So that's just a quick thing. Has match ended, another helper function. So set match state, we were looking at this earlier. This will set it, and also, well, only if it's on the authority. So that's an additional check. It will set it, and it will call the. It might be smart here, if you're extra paranoid, is to check with the game mode and make sure that the match state in the game mode and the game state is the same. That way things can't be different between the game mode and game state. And if it does, it'll probably just set it on the game mode. I'm not too sure. Oh, it's interesting here. Well, actually, it doesn't do that check because it should only be set in the game state, in the game mode. Hello. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through the game mode and game state in Unreal Engine, and I am just going through and understanding it all. And hopefully, I'm going to make a video or maybe even use clips from the stream and just make a deep dive into how Unreal Engine sets up their game mode and game state. And so if you're at all interested in Unreal Engine or in coding at all, this could be just helpful just to learn how to go through code, and just if you just want to learn how the Unreal Engine works. So what I'm looking at right now is between the game state and the game mode, there's a variable. Let's go over the game mode, and this is match state. I don't actually know what transient means. I'm gonna have to look at that later. Let me make a note of that real quick. Coding notes. What U-property transient? What is that? E-transient. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. So, in the game mode, you have a match state, and game modes are only on the server. That's kind of what one of the main differences between the game mode and game state is networking stuff. The game state, of course, it has like variables, like it keeps track of all the players for you. But when networking, the game mode only exists on the server itself. And game states are replicated to all clients and all servers. Well, the server and all the clients. And that helps it to... That makes it so that clients, they can't cheat by changing the game mode. The game mode should be the authoritative place where big things about the game, like changing from maybe if it's a racing game, it's like pre-race state to racing to post-race state. Those should only happen in the game mode. And then what happens when the set match state is called, over here in the game mode, it goes through and it actually calls on the game state itself, set match state. And then this is how the state gets that information of what this new match is. And then it handles some stuff, and then this is a replicated variable, and what that means is once it has changed, Unreal Engine for you, which is great, will just automatically update all those variables to all the clients. And that will only happen if it's set on the authoritative. So if a client somehow cheats and manages to set this variable on their end, that won't work. well, actually it will work, but the next time that the authority updates or sets that match state, it will just get overridden. And so clients can cheat by doing that, but it should get overridden immediately. So, and then what happens is on the authority, it calls this manually on rep match state. What normally happens when you're replicating a variable is you can have a function on rep, and we can even see match state, so that you can set this replicated using function, this U property here, and that just says whenever this variable is replicated to a client, call this function. And so that makes it so whenever this variable changes, it calls this, and so that way all the clients can have their handle matches waiting to start, handle matches started. So this will actually change on there, and it could call delegates, it could like change variables, you know, it could say, hey, in the UI, let's start this timer or something like that. And that'll happen on all the clients, and that way everything is synced up. The thing that got me confused initially is that normally on the replicated function only calls itself, is called when it's replicated, just automatically, but you can also call it here manually on the authority, and that way it also still gets the match state gets updated, and all the handling happens on the authority on the server, as well as once they receive that packet that this has changed, it will also get called on all the clients, and that makes sure everything is synced up between them all. Of course, there's a delay of packet travel and all that stuff, and maybe it got dropped, but that's the gist of how match state works. Okay, next let's look at get player start time. Okay, get player start time. It looks, I think this is just something that's going to be overridden. It looks like it's a helper function. No need to worry about that for the moment. Get player restart delay is, it grabs it from the game mode actually, and it gets the respawn delay. Get lifetime replicated props. Oh, and this is how when you are replicating a variable, you have to call in this function. You have to say, hey, we're replicating we are replicating this, and this is just some information. Bro. Uno momento. Oh, okay. Interesting. So, the game state. I'm curious actually what's being called in the super here. So, we are replicating the game state base, and we're also replicating it only initially. And what's this replicated world time seconds double? Let's see. Whoops. Okay. I don't know what. Oh, I see. World seconds time. Oh, I see. It's just replicating that. Interesting. So the spectator class, the game mode class, is replicated initially, and this is the world time seconds that's being replicated, probably to have like a matching world time between the clients and the server. Do replicate lifetime params. We don't need to worry about this. Anyway, in the game state, It is replicating the match state, and it is replicating the elapsed time, but only initially. Which is interesting. All right. I believe that is everything we need to be able to replicate and figure out how the heck all these work. So, in the game mode now, let's see. Let's create. Oh, actually, there is one more thing I want to look at. I think GameState. I was in. I want to look at GameState, the normal one, or maybe it's in game mode. There is. Here it is. Okay. I'm totally messing up. Where'd that go? Where is that? Maybe it's in game mode base. Let me check here. A game mode base. Here it is. Okay. We have F game mode events, which is how you can subscribe to events from anywhere. And basically just has all these delegates here for when things are changing. And then when the game mode changes. Interesting. I put pre-login, post-login. So this is just how things are getting called. And then you could subscribe to those anywhere, which I would like to use that to be able to have a global way to subscribe to things, basically. Okay. So, let's start with our own game mode. In the Tortory game mode, let's create our own match state. So let's recreate basically what's going on in that game mode so we can kind of get a deeper understanding of how it works and how you might want to implement and change things yourself. So first there is, let's see, let's create our own namespace for our namespace. Come on, why aren't you working? Namespace. Let's call this Ori match. This is for a tutorial match. And we will do the same thing here. I'm just going to copy this. So copy and paste is not E. No. Y to yank, E to paste. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to get used to that. So let's copy down exactly what they have here actually. The reason I do that is because it's actually, you know, let's not recreate exactly what they have. Let's build off of it. So first I want to delete this. I'm trying to think what would be best. What I did in my project is I basically just recreated my own game mode from the base class. So, and I just recreated all this. I went through and made it myself. I honestly would not recommend that. They have it all here coded for you already. Why aren't you using it? I kind of did it as a learning experience, and because I just didn't want to use it because I didn't understand it. But then in the course of making my own, I ended up figuring out how this worked, and well, yeah. I believe the way I want to try implementing it today is in this in progress when we are in the in progress state, that is when the game is actually being played. And when we transition to that, I'm trying to think. When it transitions to that, we should have our own game loops very similar to this that we can then just have looping in there, and then we can transition to leaving map or anything like that when we're done. That way we don't have to edit any of this, because there's a lot of helpful stuff here when entering a map, waiting to start. I mean, this is like very base level engine stuff, and there's also the getting the initial like players and reconnecting players that might have left. That was also really helpful. Let's try that. So I'm thinking a good way to implement, let's actually change this from a game mode to a game mode base, I mean, to, whoops. Oh, interesting. I'm still learning IW. Let's just delete it and go in and insert. Let's go from a game mode and not the a game mode base. And that way we can delete that. We no longer need that. And let's do the same thing for our game state. Let's make this inherited from a game state, not a game state base. We get all the helper functions in there, and let's just make it so in our game mode we are using that game state. So default game or game state, game state class equals Tori game state, Tori game state data class, I believe. That's not right. Oh, it has to be a Tori game state data class, something like that. Am I going crazy? Let's see. Is it not static class? I'm losing it. Let us go. Maybe I have to import this actually. That would do it. Nope. There we go, static class, and that will make it so entering this line here, game state class equals a Tori game state, which is the game state I'm using, static class. This makes it so the default static game state that will be used is this one now. So now when we load this up, let's just build, make sure nothing is too broken here, and I have live execution going. Okay, it built. Let's then run the engine here. And it just loaded, hopefully. Where in the world? That is so strange. There we are. Okay. Let's see, in project settings under maps and modes, let's still make sure we are having our Tori game mode being set. Perfect. Okay. And let's see, under the let's open world, and I like doing this just to make sure things are being set correctly. So let's go to window, and world settings should show up under here, and then we can just look at our game mode and make sure things are set. Yes, we can see GameState class is set to our Tori GameState, which is exactly what we want. So let's make sure we're running this. Everything should be working correctly. And voila, it is. Okay. So in our game mode, I'm going to reorganize here. Okay. In our game mode, let's create a state for our Tori game. Let's make this under the namespace Tori GameState or Tori State. Tori game. I don't know actually. Tori match. Let's call that Tori match. And so this will be external. Let's see how they do it. External const. Whoops. It's going to be an F name. And let's call this pre-game setup. Something like that. Or actually let's do pre-match. Or let's go countdown. Let's pretend that we have a countdown, and then an external const F name playing, or let's say racing. Let's say we're making a racing game. Excuse me. Extern const F name, and let's say post, or let's say finished. So we have these three states. And then in the actual game mode itself, we then need to, I don't even remember how this looks. Yes, we have to include that namespace again and enter what the values are actually going to be. So in the game mode here, let's set insert namespace Tori match const F name countdown. There's some weird guy putting German or some demonic script into the chat. What a weird person. Who would do that? Countdown equals, this is going to be create an F name from text macro, and we're just going to go countdown const F name. This is our racing equals F name text racing state const excuse me, F name finished equals F name text finished. All right. Sure, why not? Let me copy that. What does this mean, chat? I can use my 04. Oh, not an 03. Oh, a weird quote. Look at that. What a weird guy. And it's been frustrating. I don't know what that means. Huh. Well, maybe I'll just ban them since they're being weird. Huh. Or maybe I can just mute them. I'm a strange person. Anyways. Back to it. So now we have our matches, and let's create our private match states here. let's see, I don't have to explicitly say private, but I like doing it just for the sake of it. F name, and this is our Tory match state. Yeah, Tory match state. And when initializing, well, actually, then let's create a setter for this. So this will be public, and this will return void, and let's make this a U function. I'm not going to use this in blueprints. I'm just going to leave it at that. I like saying it's a U function just to make things consistent everywhere. Void set Tory match state, and this is F name new match state. And so let's create this definition here. And so first, if the new match state is equal to the Tory match state, then let's just return. We don't want to deal with that. And then for now, let's just set Tory match state equals new match state. We'll do that for now, and let's build, make sure we are doing okay here. Perfect. Then that should be all good and swell. So in the constructor, let's make it so, actually we have to add another one here for when things are not in things are not in the game mode. If we're in this area, entering map or waiting to start, then we want to make sure we're not actually in one of those states. So let's set extern const, oh, that didn't work. Const f name, pre-match and post-match. We'll I'm trying to think here. What would be a good thing to name it? Let's say waiting to start, and let's just say pre-match and post-match. I think I'll be able to understand what that means. So this is pre-match. This, I'm going to put a comment here, means that things are still being initialized in the match. Let's see, this is just called match state, correct? Match state. Whoops. Match state in game mode.h in parent. How let's say that in parent. And then extern const f name post match means that game is no longer being played and being broken down in parent. Okay. So const f name pre-match equals f name text pre-match. Let's do the same thing for post-match here. Gonna yank that. Nope. And whoops, I goofed it. Oh well. Insert const f name post match equals f name. Let's create it here. Text post match. All right. Now, in the initializer here, let's make it so that the initial match state, or Tory match state, equals Tory match pre-match, not post, pre-match. This will set this text to be pre-match here. Yeah, and things should only transition to the actual. Sorry, let's see. When they are not there, entering map gets set here in the initial constructor and also in the init game. So in init game, I will call super first. So let's make it so in make this protected, and I'll move it down here for our protected void init game, and let's create this over here, call super there, and then I just want to make sure I'm not going to be disrupting anything. Yeah, so it literally just calls set match state to the initial here. Set match state. I want to set it to Tory match pre-match. Just make sure in init game, in case it somehow resets itself, we're still in pre-match. All right. So we have the very, very basic setup here in the game mode, and now let's go over to the game state, and now we should be able to set up the replication for one of the its match state and the only being set from game mode. So let's say privately here, let's make a constructor to our game state, public. Privately, we should have f name line for this. Whoops. Interesting. F name Tory match state, and let's have a you know what I thought earlier is that set match, I don't want game mode base, I want game state base. Set match state is in, typically I would think is the private area, so that it can't be set by the game mode. I'm a little confused on that. We'll have to see. Well, I'll replicate for first what the game state base does. So let's have a void, or just u function void game set match state, set Tory match state, I should say. Tory match state to f name. So what I'm currently doing right now is I'm recreating a game mode base and a game state, and I'm just creating a simple state machine right now. So how my state machine will run is I have these, it's not an enum, but it's just an f name which stores, it's just text that stores pre-match, countdown, what state we're in right now, and then it can only be set in the game mode, and that is to prevent clients from setting it, because game mode only exists on the server. And and once it is set in the game mode, it should then replicate to or get sent over to the game state, and the game state will replicate that to all the clients and everything. And that should be pretty simple. So this is a very simple setup, and right now I'm making this inheriting from the A game mode and not the A game mode base, which is very different. So A game mode, it comes with a whole bunch of helper stuff. It has its own match state, and what I'm going to do is let it handle its own thing, and as soon as we're in progress, that's when I'm going to start running my own state machine, and then that way it can handle its own stuff. And then once we're leaving the map or something breaks or clients leave, that's when it's waiting. It gets transitioned out of my state machine into just normal waiting post match, and then game mode will handle itself. So that's the way I'm designing it currently. So right now I'm just getting the game state set up, and I'm just getting very basically, it can only be set in the game mode, and then it should go to over the game state, and we'll make it so that replicates. So fname, this is the new match state. Then that's in game state. So let's go over here. This will be void. Excuse me. Fade or a Tory game state. Let's create set match state. I'm going to make it so that I'm going to get the game mode, and I'm going to make sure that, let me think. I'm going to make sure that the game mode has the exact same state that we're about to get. That way things can't get out of sync, and if they do, I can throw errors. So first, if actually get local role is not the authority, so that means role authority, that just means if we're not the server, let's make this not equal to, if we're not the server, then, man, let me go to the end line here. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Still learning Vim. If we are not the authority, then let's return. We don't want non-authorities to be able to use this or do anything in here at all. And you don't have to do this in game mode, because game mode will only live on the authority anyway. That's why I'm not doing that there. And then so let's get the game mode. I'm just saying get default game mode. Is that right? Get default game mode. Yeah, I didn't think so. That's getting the actual class for it, but not the game mode itself. And I just get the game. Whoopsie doopsie. Game mode. How do I get the game mode from in here? Get authoritative game mode? No. Now I'm just confused. Let's look it up, shall we? Game state, get game mode, or get game mode from game state UE5. Okay, we can go through the get world route. Get world. If get world is valid, actually, and get world, then game mode, get auth game mode. So this will only work when you're on the authoritative server. Get auth game mode. Let's see. Oh, it's fine. If we are going to not do that, insert, delete. A game mode base. Will that return the game mode base? Let's see. Oh, get auth game mode, then we can put the type in here. Hey, Tori game mode. And then a Tori game mode. Let's get this as a reference. I'm just gonna call that game mode equals that. That's if our game mode is valid. We can go game mode. Oh, we have to get a getter for this, don't we? Let's go U function just for the heck of it. We're going to return an F name. Get Tori match state F name. We don't need to do that. And this should just return Tori match state. And this can be constant. Very well. Game mode. Get Tori match state. I don't know why that isn't. Oh, I need, it's a F name game modes Tori match state equals this here. I'm confused on why this is not working. Oh, because that's the game. That's the game state. Cool. Well, it should be exactly the same. No. Yank it. And then go. It's a shortcut for going between the two. I do not remember. Oh, it's Alt. That's right. And then let's place that there. There we go. If game, let's edit this to actually have game modes. Nodes Tori match state is not equal to the new match state. Then we want to return. Well, let's log an error. UE log log temp, I believe, and then error, and then we need text. I like doing a thing where I just yoink that. Nope. Yoink it. And then place it here. And then new match state does not match what is in game mode. And then we can return. I'm gonna be very unhappy. If we can't get that game mode, then we'll just leave it be. Let's think. And then after that, I believe we should just set the Tori game mode, Tori match state, be equal to the new match state. There we are. Let's see, make sure I am following what base class does doing. Set match state. Yeah, it literally just does that. I'm being a little more secure with mine though. And then let's call, this is going to be a U property and replicated using on rep. Oh wait, on rep. Tori match state. Actually, I'm going to just leave that be for now. There we are. Okay. Let's see. Should be good. Give her a build and see if everything's happy. It is not. It looks like I never created the constructor. That's the issue. Going to, how do I cut this? Extra cut, I think. Paste that here. Nope. And then, so let's see what GameState does actually. Yeah, just sets the GameState stuff. So, story match state equals Tory. Let's see. Tory match. Default to being pre-match. Did I do that in the game mode? Did. Perfect. Excuse me. Okay, sorry, I had to think for a second. Alrighty, and then that should be set. That build now. Let's see. Perfect, it built just fine. And so I've noticed when I'm going to now set up replication, and I notice when I edit the replication settings and stuff, things start to break. So I'm going to close down the editor. And I have to build manually first and then open the engine, or else things start breaking. So let's go protect it here. What's it called? Void. There's something replication. Get lifetime replicated props. Let's create that. No. H. Anyway. Let's create that. I like putting this down at the bottom. And paste that there. No, I want to do just normal O there. Okay. And to replicate lifetime. This has to be, I believe it's a Tory GameState, and then this is the variable we want to replicate, which is Tory match state. And then in the Tory match state, let's set this to be why aren't you? Okay, replicated using on rep underscore Tory match state. Let's create that Tory match state. And that's going to be private. It has to be U function, I believe. Void on rep Tory match state. This is the match state, perfect. And then let's get this here. That didn't work. Visual. Oh, fun. I can just move it up like that. Okay. On rep. Let's put that right below. And then that should call on the clients. And then I want this to be called after on rep Tory match state. Let's build it and see if things are going to crash when I run it. All right. Okay, let's run it. Nothing is dying on me. Am I setting the default pawn class in my game mode? Could be. Let's see. Our project settings, make sure our maps and modes. For game mode, that looks correct. Hold up, I gotta turn off my caps lock. In the world did I do that? Uno momento. And power. Lovely. Okay. There we are. Oopsie doopsie, sorry about that. Okay. So is our player controller is being made, but we're being spawned in as a spectator spawn. Something ain't working. Let me look at the world settings over here. Oh, Player pawn class. Anything getting logged? No, what it might be is that project settings. This might still be linked to something weird since we changed it. Let's redo that. No, that didn't do it. Anything I can think of in Writer, in game mode, we are getting that default pawn class. In the GameState class and the I'm not too sure what's going on. Some reason when I'm starting the game, it is spawning me in as a spectator, I believe. Let's see. I don't see my player pawn. Yeah, I'm spawning in as a spectator pawn, so that makes me. I've been editing stuff with our game mode. Let me try. That should work. Why isn't it working? I didn't change anything much. Did I? This should be just fine, I believe. And it's spawning in the game mode in the initializer. I am setting the match state. And that should be right. Let me put a log here just in case it is not being called. Let's see, else. UE log. Log temp for now. Error. This text. Could not get the player pawn C class. Don't know what's going on. Any ideas would be helpful, would be grateful. Okay, that built. Anything? Let me clear this log. Yes, I would have to rebuild, don't I? Let's see. Because that initializer is only ran and the editor is currently Let's see. Looks like it's been created successfully, but still spawning in as floating face. It'd be fine. I'm so confused. That. Let's simplify this down. I'm going to get rid of the GameState class and the pre-match stuff, and we are just going to have the game mode just as it should be. What I've been working on recently is just getting setting up my own game mode and game state using not game mode base or game state base, but just the game mode and game state that UE gives you. We went through all the stuff and was just looking at how it all works, and now I'm just teaching and just creating my own version of it. Hopefully so I could turn into a video some other time as well. I am just stumped on why I'm spawning in as a spectator. Let's use Google, shall we? Son. Okay. UE5 spawning in as a spectator. What could it have been? Let me check. Actually, there an object should spawn in, which should be our game mode, right? I don't remember anymore. GameState. Okay, so this is not actually our okay, so the Tortoy game mode is loading in. I must be misunderstanding something. Let me try moving back from an A game mode to a game mode base. That shouldn't totally mess things up, and that means I'd have to move. Since I'm not using that game state anymore, I don't have to change anything. If I were to set this game state to a Tori game state, since this one inherits from a game state and not a game state base, it would throw an error because if you're using Unreal Engine, if you're inheriting from Unreal Engine's created ones, then it will throw some errors. Let's try building. Did not like it. Let's see what's going on. Oh, it's because in game state I am. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. Let's see. Okay, that should be patched over here. I'm going to go back into the project settings, maps and modes, and I'm just going to remove it. Let's see, can I set it just to game mode based? Let's try running with that. That worked. What the heck is going on? Maybe it's because it's overridden here. Wait, why did this all of a sudden start? Or because as I'm uh-oh, gonna sneeze, give me a moment. Excusez-moi. Okay. Maybe it really is that for some reason when I'm changing from game mode base to game mode, something's breaking. Yeah. What could it be? Let's see, in game mode. Like being overridden or something? I think this is a question for that. Let's see. I'm changing this to 04 mini high UE5. I am trying to make a game mode that inherits from a game mode and not a game mode base. When I do that, the player spawns in as a spectator and not the player class getting set. I am setting. If all I do is switch which class I am inheriting from, it works. Otherwise, it does not. I'm gonna put a little bit of code in here. This has a bit of context. This is my constructor. It works just fine, but my player doesn't start if inheriting from a game mode Bro. I need to figure something out about that. Okay. They can come up with some troubleshooting for us. Okay, so a game mode adds some spectator logic on top of base functionality. A game mode base does not have a spectator pawn. Let's see. Right now, what I'm doing is, for those joining, I am creating my own game mode and game state. That is, I'm trying to make it inherit from a game mode instead of a game mode base. Because a game mode, it has a lot of helper stuff. And what I'm doing is creating and showing people, I want to make a video about this eventually, how to, when the game mode base is in progress, how to create our own state machine off of that and just have our own. When we're in the game, we can go from countdown to racing to post racing, and then game mode will just handle all of the back-end stuff for us. If you have any questions, shoot me at. That's what I've been working on, and I'm just struggling through. Apparently in game mode, even though I went through it and understood it all, it looks like I missed the fact that when players spawn in, they spawn in as spectators instead. Let's even look in here. Game mode, spectator, must spectate. When is this ran? I think must spectate. I'm pretty sure that just grabs it from the player state. Let's see. Let me double check something here. Yeah, okay. Where is everything handling spectator stuff? Handle starting new player. Start player as spectator. Is B start as spectator? Let's see. Whoops. B start players as spectator. Is that default being true? Let me check here. Let's try setting this to false and seeing if that fixes that. Not where I want to be. In the my own game mode, let's say B start players as spectator equals false. And now that we're inheriting from a game mode, let's build and see if that was what was causing the issue there. Okay, that was it. Okay, simple problem. I wonder why it was set to true in this. How did it get set to true in here? Let me search. It's not, but in here, let's see how often it is used. It should be always set to false, I'm pretty sure. Oh well, whatever. I figured it out at least. In the... So now things should be working with replication also. Let me make sure our game state is being set and our initial match state from our game mode. And so basically what happens is when the game mode sets a state, and it can only be set in the game mode, hopefully. Here, I can do that real quick. Game state. Let me actually, if game state, want to make sure it's valid. We can go game state. Oh, I need to, let me see what the game mode does here, actually. Whoops, nope. Man, I'm still getting used to Vim. Set match state. Set match state here. Yeah, okay. So there is a built-in function for getting the game state. So let's go. Whoops. Man. It'll take a while to get used to. I'm learning Vim, so that's why I'm struggling. It's looking good. Tori match state. Tori game state equals my game state, or let's go Tori game state equals so Tori game state. Get game state as an Tori game state. That should be Tori game state. Let's set match state to that new string, or at new f name. New match state. Perfect. What I also want to do here, well, I guess I'm updating it either way. Oh, wait, okay, we're good. What I was thinking is I could do a check here to make sure things are getting set correctly, but that's fine. It's fine. I want to do a log here and just make sure a replication is working. Log temp. Gonna be a warning so I can see it. That's fine. Replicating match state. Let's just make sure that's being called. Okay. Let's see. Did that get called? You know what it is I don't want to actually change anything. So in the game mode, is there begin play? Does that virtual void begin play? Perfect. Okay, on begin play, let's just switch our game mode. Actually, no, there's a much better way of doing this. When let's override Virtual void handle match has started. Let's see, is anything being called in here? Handle match has started. Stuff does get played in here. Perfect. Not what I wanted to do. I want to then change set getting Tory match state to Tory match. Just erasing for now. There we are. Okay. I should see a warning popping up. Oh wait, it's because I'm not in network. Okay, let's turn this on and play as listen server. The we also move this window over. See it? Perfect. This have stay on top. It does not. We believe in the editor settings. Something about making the it's in play. It should be on top. Always on top. Perfect. Okay. There we are. Let's see. Move that down there, right here, so you guys can see it. So I don't understand. Let me check something, because right now I just have it set so in Tory GameState I have just replicated using, and that's what happens in the GameState, or in, let's see, replicated using. That's all that has, and it's getting replicated. But I'm getting tired. A little bit longer. I'm just thinking. Get some water. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Okay. When replicating variables, do you need to do replicated and replicate using? I see some variables in GameState that just have replicate using and it works, but on my own I have to have replicated and replicated using, or it doesn't work. Let us see. If we're using replicated using, we shouldn't need to. You have the do replicated lifetime call, I'm pretty sure. Do replicated lifetime. Date. Yeah, I do have it. Oh, well, no. I'll set be replicated to true just in case. Be replicate was true. We're building with that. No. Well, oh well, it's not a big deal. Let's just say this is replicated and replicated using. Things don't crash. Okay. Still, I'm not seeing. I don't know. Okay. Oh. Well, I'm gonna call it quits here. Why can't I move? Can't fly. Just because that. I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna call it quits here for now, and I might come back later today and work on this some more. Or maybe I'll just start recording, and I feel like I've learned enough to start recording, and I could start making things up. I'll think about it. Anyway, cheers, mate. Thank you, everyone who was watching this, and Ronan for watching this later. Ah, I knew you were here. You are here. Cool. You didn't even comment. Cool. I had 3 people at one point. I lost them though. Anyway, enough of that. Peace out.